Hello, my name is Ilgin Yorulmaz, and I'm a freelance journalist for Turkish Press. Thank you for being here today, and just want to ask you about outside Japan. It's probably a historic question, but how was Aung San Suu Kyi's position during her own struggle against the oppression? And how was she perceived among the Muslims in Myanmar during that time? And we know that one of her advisors was assassinated, and she's yet to visit his family. And so just briefly on that. And the second question, maybe following up, this international pressure, do you also see this coming from the Muslim countries? Have you seen it yet? Do you want to see more of it? What's stopping them?
Okay, let me answer the Kony question first. Yeah, Kony was this like the Muslim legal advisor who, in fact, found a legal loophole in the military constitution that was designed to keep military in power and above the society and law for eternity. And Kony, very creatively came up with this idea of state counselor, yeah, and then whose term is going to parallel 5-year presidential term. And but the day Kony was shot dead, in fact, like Kony was flying back from Jakarta, where he had discussions with the Indonesian reformists who, managed the military in the transitional period. How to gradually phase the military out of the unelected positions in the parliament. And so when he arrived at the Rangoon the international airport, he was holding his 2 or 3-year-old grandson when the military. Basically, military instigated murderer shot him in his back from point blank. Yeah, and so the day that happened, guess what? Aung San Suu Kyi was about to entertain the Japanese diplomats who came with the cherry tree as a symbol of peace between two nations and the long, decades of special friendship. Yeah, and if I were, okay, I'm not the number one the general that is the most powerful in Burma, but but if I were to say Suu Kyi, she is, for all intents and purposes, she is the people's leader. She is the elected leader. And she controls the parliament. She can easily get a crony if the military will not, Air Force will not cooperate, she could get a crony that owns airlines and says, look, I need a private jet. Because she has flown on Bono's private jet and Lee Hsien Loong, Singaporean Prime Minister, private jet. She's flown on so many private jets. And here's a situation that called for Suu Kyi getting on the private jet, flying back to Rangoon, 40 minutes or less, and going straight to the widow and giving her a hug and say, sister, I am really sorry. Yeah, like Kony died in my, in the service of democratization. Yeah, particularly this is disgusting that she failed to do that, because she herself, at the age of 18 months, lost her father to assassins' bullets. And this woman has absolutely shown no compassion. Maybe she feels it, but I can't see any indications that she's ready to. And then it took about 1 month for her to say anything. Because then she said it because even the Burmese language media started to express that popular outrage that Suu Kyi did not even pick up a phone and call her. And they've gone like that. Kony left his surviving family, like daughters, grandchildren, and wife. One of them, she should say, I'm really sorry your dad was, killed. Yeah, no, none of that, and they could she could reschedule the Japanese meeting with the Japanese delegation that brought cherry tree all the way from Tokyo. The Japanese government thinks Suu Kyi can walk on water, and they kiss the ground she walks on. Yeah, and at Kyoto University there is a room where she stayed. That my friend who teaches there, they told me it's treated like a little Shinto shrine, and so I think it's unconscionable. In terms of pressure from OIC, look, Saudi Arabia, everybody knows the headlines. I mean, like how much influence Saudi Arabia has. And then Saudi embassy, ambassador in Washington, I used to live in Washington on Massachusetts Avenue. I mean, he's one of the very few ambassadors who can pick up a phone to the US president. If Saudi make all kinds of noises about the Rohingyas. There are 300,000 Rohingyas in Saudi Arabia with no jobs or in some kind of endangered labor situation because Saudis don't work. They get money from the government and other Muslims go and service them. And so Saudi Arabia could use its financial might, enormous might. Saudi Arabia can tell Tony Blair's government, drop the internal corruption investigation of BAE, British, the aerospace company. Because if you continue with the corruption investigation against BAE, that involves, that concern the Saudi royal family, we're going to stop collaborating, or we're going to stop, cooperating on the terrorist intelligence operation. And in Indonesia, the largest Muslim country in Southeast Asia, one of the leader of ASEAN, Indonesia sees itself as bigger than ASEAN. It wants to be part of the big guys club, and Indonesia has been consistently blocking any effective measures whoever tables at the OIC and the UN. I mean, of all the countries, I mean, I can understand that Modi, fundamentalist Hindu, neo-fascist leadership would team up with Suu Kyi and the Burmese military against a Muslim because Modi himself is doing similar dodgy things in his country towards the Muslim people. But Indonesia, I mean, close to 300 million population, 85–90% of whom are Muslim. The civil society is concerned about the Rohingya people, and the government is more interested in getting concessions in coal mining, cement industry. 5 years ago, Burma or Rangoon was predicted as the site for the largest real estate boom. Indonesia wanted to buy the Burmese national cement industry in anticipation of buildings mushrooming everywhere. Yeah, and so OIC is so split, and look at the Middle East. And so, where would the pressure come from? Well, the pressure will come from countries like, Sweden, the Malaysia, that is attempting to punch above its head. Canada. They will come from a combination of Muslim countries and non-Muslim societies and non-Muslim countries. A coalition of conscience, the governments that at least have decency to say that there is a red line that no member state of the UN must cross, and Burma is crossing and has crossed it, and the genocide is ongoing. So if we get a coalition of 10 countries, you can end this genocide. Let me tell you, without international intervention of any kind, and not simply military, all forms of intervention, economic moratorium, sanctions, travel ban. The world was up in arms when apartheid was going on and Mandela was in jail for 27 years. Apartheid allowed communities to stay to stay alive as second-class citizens. Japanese were considered honorary citizens because of economic ties between the white African government and Tokyo. This is genocide. Genocide is not about letting people live. Genocide is about exterminating an entire group of humans. There has to be a line if we want to call our world a civilization.
Thank you. Now, the gentleman over there, you wanted to make a statement, I believe, or was it a question? Yes. Question, okay. We have about 5 minutes left.
フリーランスの木村と申します。よろしくお願いします。最後に日本における
I'm sorry, I'm really ignorant.
Do we have a translator? Because we don't.
青木さんじゃあ普通訳してもらっていいですか。先生お願いしていいですか。じゃあどういう。はい。日本における難民行政についてお伺いしたいと思います。ロヒンギャの人々が今200人ほど日本に住んでおりますけれども、難民申請をしているにもかかわらず、ほとんど日本政府入管がこれを認めておりません。難民認定がほとんどゼロに近い状況であります。いわばコックスバザールにおいては70万人を超える人々が受けられている。一方で G7 に入っている日本においては これだけの数の人たちが世界に離散してもかかわらず、日本の難民行政においては全くゼロ、これについて、ご見識、ご意見をいただきたいと思います。
Well, I'll do it, I think. So you said there are about 200 Rohingya in Japan, Rohingya who have claimed refugee status, and the Japanese government has not granted a single one, or very, very few, citizenship. Well, refugee status is what I heard. Yeah. Yes. So your opinion on that?
I think Japan is still, number 2 or number 3 world's economy. And I just read today in the Japan news the Prime Minister Abe saying that one of his priorities would be to bring more foreign workers here. And obviously there is a labor need, and then Rohingyas have, I've just visited a Rohingya family yesterday. Their children look Rohingya. They are growing up as the first generation immigrant Japanese. They speak, their mother tongue is Japanese, and they enjoy the democratic protection in this country. They have shown enormous gratitude toward the people. They respect the customs. They would, I think, granting these people refugee status, should be full refugee status with all the rights and protection that pertaining to the being a refugees, should be, definitely on the policy agenda. And ideally, they should be granted citizens. Because these, from this 200 Rohingya community can, produce, that they can become doctors, engineers, journalists, that they can become, assets to the community, their own community that has been violently expelled, out of their country. And so I think it would be enlightened and far-sighted if Prime Minister Abe look at the Rohingyas here as assets, not only to the Japanese economy as a labor force, but to the community leaders that can provide, the leadership and other assets, support to their own communities. When the Rohingyas have get their own homeland back under some kind of international protection.
Thank you. We have 3 minutes left, which is time for another question if anybody has one. Those all.
Hi, I'm a reporter from Japan Times. I have a few questions related to that question.
Can you state your name if you don't mind?
Oh, Tanaka from Japan Times. And so Japanese government will revise the resettlement program for a Myanmar refugee.
Revise?
Revise the resettlement program. They probably going to announce today, but they're hoping to accept around 60 refugees from Myanmar, maybe including other Asian country too. But I would like to ask your personal opinion about this government decision. It's a small number, but I would like to ask your opinion. And the second question would be so you said Japanese government never used the word Rohingya, but if they start using the word Rohingya, it probably will be a very small step, but yet the big step. Do you think it's a big step for Japanese government to stop mass genocide in Myanmar?
Oh, 2 questions then, yeah?
You've officially got 1 minute to answer both of those questions.
One is look at the slides over there. Since 1978, that's 40 years ago, we have waves of exodus, chronic waves. This is a cycle of people running for their lives, coming back under some kind of a bilateral repatriation agreement. And look, the numbers keep going up. And today, last year, a total of 825,000 fled, And that means the repatriation, bilateral, or some kind of Japanese support or UN support is not the solution. The solution is international protection. Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has repeated in 2 straight years that she thinks that safe zone needs to be established. Japan can provide a peacekeeping force. It doesn't have to be blue helmets. If anything, blue helmets have been complicit in a different genocide. Like the Dutch peacekeepers, 300 of them were found guilty of collaborating in Srebrenica. And so in terms of calling Rohingya by their own name, well, Japan is violating international cultural law because every group has the right to call themselves. If you call yourself Tanaka, I cannot say you are Michelle. I'm going to insist calling you Michelle. Then you can slap my, you would slap me across the face. And then my final comment is, this is a textbook example of genocide. Genocide has two parts, in terms of the original conception of the word genocide by Raphael Lemkin, who coined the term. One is the destruction of the identity and the group from its very foundations. And then the other and final part is imposing the perpetrator's choice of identity in the event there are any souls left walking after a mass extermination took place. That is why if you look at Israel, Israel never called Palestinian Palestinian. They always call them Arabs. That's why the slogan is dead to Arabs, not to Palestinians. They would not recognize Palestinians by their own chosen name. So by going with Suu Kyi's insistence that they call them as Bengali, actually Japan is complicit in this sociological process of group annihilation.
Well, thank you so much for that highly charged and heartfelt speech. It's given plenty of us to think about. I look forward to seeing it on the evening news tonight. NHK top story, probably not. Just to remind you that Dr. Zarni is the co-author of the first ever academic study on the genocide of the Rohingya. It's called The Slow Burning Genocide of the Rohingya in Myanmar. It's published in the Pacific Rim Law and Policy Journal. I imagine it's online. If you're interested,
it's online. Yeah,
it's online.
If you go to my website, go to the writings, and you will find it.
Thank you so much. Well,
thank you so much.
Please do show your apologies, first of all, to the people who didn't have time to comment, but do please show your appreciation to Dr. Zarni for his speech. Thank you so much.
Thank you.